Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Kevin McCluskey. We are here to talk about a disappointing night in Europe, Kevin. It's got to be said over the piece where we're sitting here at half time and we're a goal up. They managed to claw that back, and Celtic are out of Europe. Sum it up for us before we start bringing some of the comments in. Sum up tonight for us. Are we just a wee bit short at this level? Is this the campaign that got away? How would you sum it up?
I think it's a bit of both of those two things. I think we've shown in every game that we've been able to compete, and we've gone toe to toe with everyone in every game up until like the 55, 60 minute mark. Today we were able to today, and also I think in the first game in Poland against Donetsk, we were able to take them for the full 90 minutes. So we've maybe found that a team like Donetsk is the level that we should be trying to compete against a bit more. But overall, I think it is just that coming up just short. We've we've been outclassed by teams in the end. We've been outclassed by teams that are better than us, and the team that's in the pot just above us, we've given them two pretty decent games. We're getting our 2 points from the group from that team. So there's you can take positives from it. It's going to be difficult after that because I think we're all just very disappointed because this was the game. But I think we all thought we were not guaranteed the 3 points, but if we were going to get a win, it was this one. And it does kind of feel like this is a game that got away because it was there for the taking, I felt anyway.
Yeah, and I think that has been a frustration for a while. It's not so much that we're all wild in our aspirations and we think we're going to be getting to the latter stages of the Champions League overnight, Kevin. But it's about managing to go toe to toe with teams like Shakhtar Donetsk in this group and coming away with something better than a couple of one each draws. These are the games that we should be taking something more from. That's the frustration. You play against Real Madrid. I don't know what's going to happen in Spain, but you come away from that and you're proud of the team. We were proud that night, weren't we? With the fact that we did compete for 55 minutes, and there were moments in its fine margins, and we've heard all of this. And then there are similar scenarios against Leipzig, but it's the games against Shakhtar Donetsk that you think we could have won. And I'm going to bring this up here from Autumn Glow because you point out that we can't complain about bad luck if you look at that open goal they missed. And yeah, it was a horrendous miss. But I think the disappointing one for me, we'll go through some of the snapshot by O'Reilly or the post being hit by Yakimakis. It's the chance Kyogo gets, where Yurius Yakimakis plays him in. It's a one-on-one. You could be kind to him and say he's tried to hit it through his legs, but it looks more to me that he's just hit it straight at the goalie. And it was an easy enough save for the keeper. But that's the moment, Kev, that you've got to be decisive. You've got to score.
Yeah, it's a really, really tame finish from him, and it's so unlike him because he's normally clinical in that position. So I don't know if he's going through a wee kind of crisis in confidence at the moment because he hasn't scored that many goals recently. But that's the chance that a top striker's got to put away. He's just got to have the composure in front of goal. Then, you give the keeper the eyes and you put him the other way. Big miss. You wonder if it was the other way around, if it's Kyogo that slipped Giacomakis through. How does that one end up? And that's the thing. But our whole campaign, in a way, has been full of these what-if moments. And that there is only so much, I think, you can, or so long you can kind of pedal that one before you go, do you know what? We've given it our best just hasn't been good enough. But it's a learning curve. It's a whole experience. And we'll come back next season, hopefully, a bigger, better, stronger side because we're stronger this season than we were last season. So you can see that there's improvements under Ange. You've just got to hope that it continues again into the next campaign.
We've not been humbled in any of the games. We've not gone out and taken a tanking. And by the way, I'm touching mood as I say that because I know we've still got to go to the Bernabeu, right? But
well, that's your famous last words right there.
It would put a downer on it if you had gone out and got absolute pasted, even if it was a 4-0, and we've not had that. We haven't had that. And I think that you can, rest assured that Ange will analyse what's gone on tonight. I'll be interested to hear his post-match. I'm going to bring this up because I'm interested to hear everybody's observations. Lawrence reckons that O'Reilly and Hatate were wildly inconsistent in the game. I don't know if I agree about O'Reilly. Again, though, I'm open to hear your thoughts on this one, Kevin. I thought O'Reilly was one of our best players. I would maintain Taylor over the piece was Celtic's best player tonight. But I thought O'Reilly did really, really well. I was still noting defensive attributes where he was able to break down attacks from Shakhtar. Hatate wasn't his best night. I've taken a note here, probably about 20 minutes before full time, where I just felt Hatate was spent. I thought he was done. Far too many passes were going astray. He wasn't decisive enough at that moment in time. I thought he was tiring badly by that stage. But O'Reilly, I tend to disagree. I thought O'Reilly played pretty well tonight.
Yeah, I think O'Reilly for me, he had a bit of a mixed game, to be honest. I felt maybe the first 10, 15 minutes, he wasn't quite himself. He'd made a few kind of slack passes, trying to maybe force the issue a wee bit too much. Wasn't quite his kind of usual accurate self with the passing, but then he grew into the game. And his defensive side again was the thing that really impressed me. He's back in making tackles, he's putting a foot in to intercept passes and break up the play. And I think that gave him the confidence, and his whole attacking game improved from there. Where you'd maybe say was inconsistent was that his final product didn't always come off, but he never had. And that's for me is a big thing about a player like him. He'll make mistakes, but then he'll want the ball again straight away.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought he had a pretty decent game. He made mistakes, but he didn't let it bother him, and he just got on with it. Hatate, again, I thought he was really good in the first half. I thought he was, well, maybe not excellent, but he was really good. He was covering ground. He was helping to kind of build attacks and keep things going. But I do agree that second half he slacked off. I think he tired, and his level of kind of influence in the game slipped. And it's unfortunate. It's his error that kind of leads to the goal. It's his slack pass that gives the ball away. And the pace that they've got in the counter is frightening. From that moment on, you've just got to sit back and watch that and go, wow, because it's some finish from the boy Mudryk. But I think for me, it's probably from that moment on, actually, Hatate's influence just kind of fades from the game, and he'd run his course. And it's unusual to see both him and O'Reilly play as long as they did in the game, because usually one or both of them's off after about 65 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's something to do with it. Just naturally tiring as the game went on, and it is a step up from the normal standard that we're used to.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, if you were to look at the attacking passage of play that Celtic had against Leipzig, which resulted in us losing the ball and them going up the park and scoring, you're talking seconds, right? It was really cutthroat and decisive and clinical and all these things that we've been talking about that we wanted Celtic to add to their game. I think that comes with time. I think that comes with experience at this level. The same thing happened tonight. We lose the ball. It goes to a player like Mudryk, who's a special, special player, who this time next year will not be playing for Shakhtar Donetsk. And you can only imagine what the transfer fee is going to be for him. And it showed tonight why, because, that finish was astonishing. And sometimes, you've got to just say, oh, what a goal. That was just brilliant. But, you do go back, you ask yourself, why did we lose the ball when we did? How could we prevent that? Because we've given him the opportunity to show us how good he is, Kevin. But up until that point, I don't think we really did. I thought Juranovic had, really stuck to his task well. He had nullified it for the best part. He did have the chance in the first half where Hart saved well. But it's about just not giving him that chance, because you know what he can do. He's a supreme talent. And even when he picks the ball up where he did, and Juranovic did well, because he's forced him inside. He can't beat him for pace. He's forced him inside. And for him to pull off a shot like that was just astonishing. You can't say it's bad goalkeeping. You can't say we never closed them. It's just don't give him the opportunity. And the opportunity was only given because we lost the ball. And, it's sometimes as simple as that. If you lose the ball at the weekend against Livingston, are they going to capitalise on it in such a way? Of course they're not. There's no way that's going to happen. But at this level, it will. So I'm deliberately going to bring up this point from Pigeon M, and it's not to ridicule anybody's comments, but I just think we need a bit of perspective, right? So Pigeon M reckons it's time for Ange to thank the Japanese boys and buy them tickets to go back to Japan. And I think that's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Now, we've spoken about the 4 signings since last January. Some of them have been revelations in Celtic jerseys, Kevin, right? Idiguchi has been unlucky, and we've been saying we're not writing him off. We don't know what he can do yet. We haven't seen it over a period of games. So let's talk about the other 3 players who were involved tonight. Kyogo didn't have his best night, right? But see, over the piece, you can't write him off. I don't think he's had a great campaign in Europe, but you don't write the player off. He's been superb for Celtic since he signed. His goal scoring record in terms of minutes played is up there. I actually mentioned it the other week there. It was neck and neck with Giakoumakis. That might be slightly worse than Giakoumakis now because he's got in on the score sheet. But you don't write a player off because he's not managed to get up to this level in Europe yet, because I think he can. Hatate's the same. Not his best game tonight, and I think a lot of that was down to him tiring. The fact that we were playing a slightly different system in midfield. The fact that he's missing his captain, who, plays a massive part in the success of Hatate when he's playing alongside him. And Maeda didn't have a bad game tonight. I mean, see where he heads that ball down to Giakoumakis for the final chance of the game in the 90th minute. He does brilliantly well to get to that. He's had a sticky patch this season, but no, I'm not having that. I'm not writing off those 3 players. Idiguchi, the jury's out, but Hatate, Maeda, and Kyogo, it's been a bad night tonight, but I'm not writing these guys off.
It's a complete knee-jerk reaction. I think if anyone's writing them off after tonight, I don't know how you can, to be honest. Idiguchi, we all know, hasn't played, and it's been injuries, it's been lack of fitness or whatever it was when he came in, and he hasn't had a chance. So you can't judge him because you've got nothing to judge him on so far. Excuse me. The others, Kyogo's one of the names you want to see in the team sheet every week. He has struggled to step up, I think, to this level, to playing in the Champions League. And he's missed a big chance tonight. If he scores that, you don't get that comment. And it's one incident either way that can just kind of sway the opinion. Kyogo's a really top player. I think he's probably a bit low in confidence at the moment because he hasn't been overly on form, but all strikers go through this period. Once he starts scoring again, he'll be flavour of the month again, and he'll be everyone's favourite forward. I think he's good enough to play at this level, but he's another player that's learning to play at this level. And games like this will hopefully be something that could push him on a wee bit, because he'll not want to experience this again. Hatate's been excellent for us to move on to him in the Champions League so far. There's been games where he's been our best player, or certainly our best midfielder. His range of passing is something that we've all wondered at times and looked at when that's Champions League level. He's got that about him. But we all know that he's another one, learning at this level. Rarely plays a full 90 minutes for us in the league. So naturally, he's not going to play a full 90 minutes in the Champions League. He's going to struggle a little bit at the level. But he's getting there. And in the hour that we get out of him, it's usually a top-class hour. Just the way things are at the moment, he had to play a little bit more tonight. And he did fade a wee bit. It'll come for him. You can't write him off because of tonight. And I'm a big fan of Maeda, so I won't write him off ever, I don't think. He's not going to be like that goal-scoring centre-forward, I don't think. I don't think he's going to hit 20 goals a season for you. But he might make 20 goals a season for you. And if you look at secondary or tertiary assists coming into the season, he'll be really high up there because of his work rate. And he's exactly the type of player that we need at times in the system that Ange plays. And the chance that you mentioned right at the end, I'm thinking that's Scott McDonald against Rangers a few years ago when Big Vinegar of Hesselink gets the 94th minute winner. It was almost a carbon copy of that. The ball into the back post, the little striker with the header back, and the big man so close to finishing it off. And again, if that goes in from Giakoumakis, does anybody have a poor opinion of Maeda? No, because he's just set up the goal.
Yep.
So I think at the moment it's the emotions have been straight after the game. It is a wee bit knee-jerk reactions at times that come in, but I mean those 3 boys are big players for Celtic, and they should be for the next few years to come. Anyone that desperately wants to get rid of them needs their head checked, I think.
There's a few comments coming in, and I take into account that it's an emotional reaction after a game of football. But let's keep it into perspective. It was a 1-1 draw in the Champions League groups. It's not as if we've been humbled. I mean, there's been some embarrassing results previously. This isn't one of them. Paddy Lavery comes in to say, I called out our sloppy passing in the first half, but that second half was worse and was directly to blame for us losing the goal. Yeah, the passing was unusually sloppy. I absolutely take that, and I think that's the reason we are coming away with a draw. But Jake, how many European games without a win need to go by before we worry that Ange's open tactics will never work in Europe? Ange's been unsuccessful in 2 campaigns now. Well, I think it depends on how you look at it, right? He'd never managed in a European competition until last season. And the team that he had was very much a team in transition. And, I think that whatever happened last year was almost a free hit, especially the Champions League qualifier, which he almost got us through, by the way, playing an 18-year-old at the back. And I think that, this campaign's slightly different in that it's a big step up. Kevin, you spoke about, the differences between the teams we faced last year compared to those that we've faced this year. It is definitely a step up in quality and in class. But I think all you need to do is you listen to Ange's comments, listen to the way that he speaks about approaching these games in this tournament. And it's not about just having blind faith and blind loyalty, Kevin, right? But if you buy into that, and we were talking about buying into Ange's system and players buying into Ange's system like Greg Taylor, I think what you will see is in time, and not after one campaign, not after 5 games, but in time, you will see that the system will work. Does it mean that certain elements of that system have to improve? Certain players, perhaps, have to improve? I would say, yeah, undoubtedly, that would be the case. We were without our captain tonight. We were without one of our most creative players in Jota this evening. The central defensive partnership, of which I am a massive, massive fan, by the way, Jens and Carter Vickers, is not the first choice partnership. So you've got to take these things into account, and we still got a draw, and we're disappointed with the draw, Kevin, right? So, no, I'm not at that stage yet where I would rip it up and start again. I think Ange has a system, and it will work. It will work if we give him the time that it takes for these things to develop, Kevin. What's your take on that?
Yeah, time is the important word there for me. I think it will take time. I think we've come into this campaign, and on every show, as we've said before, we've tried to be really positive about things, and we genuinely do believe that we can win the games that we're playing. I think we generally caveat it by saying, it's Real Madrid, best team in the world. We probably should lose this one. It's Leipzig. They can spend infinite amount of money every transfer window because of their backers. We probably should lose this one. But we do have a chance. We did have a chance, and we ran these teams really close. But deep down, we probably know that we're not quite at the level yet. We want to be taking a look at somebody like Club Brugge as the example, because Club Brugge have been going into the Champions League for the last few years and getting scalped week in, week out. And then they started to make a wee bit of progress. And they were getting a couple of wins or a couple of draws and turning it around. They're now sitting top of their group, 10 points from 4 games, 7 goals scored, none conceded. And the group's got Porto, Atletico Madrid, and Bayer Leverkusen in it. All of a sudden, within 5 years, they've become an overnight success, that kind of thing. And that's what we've got to be building towards. We're not going to become a Champions League team in one season. But if we keep the faith with Ange, if we trust in the process, if we keep him on board and we keep on developing, within 5 years, we can become the next overnight success like a Club Brugge. We might not top our group. We might get a second place. We might become a team that's consistently qualifying for the knockouts in the Europa League. It takes time and it takes patience. And that's something that it's a virtue in football. Us football fans, we're a fickle bunch and we can turn pretty quickly. We don't usually give our managers and our players the time that they need. But if we can with Ange, and I think he deserves it, I think he'll take us there. And like he said, but the glass ceiling, if you don't believe that we can get through, don't bother walking through the front door.
This, Kevin, when you're looking at the success story that you've just explained there, it is about being patient. And when we're talking about Kyogo and people are writing Kyogo off, I think back to a League Cup final, right? let's take a wee walk back in time to the League Cup final. Leading up to that trophy, after the season that we had previously, right? And when Ange came in and the reaction to Ange's appointment, and then what he was faced with regards to that fractured nature of the team, low in confidence, losing 3 of the star players. And on the eve of that cup final, it meant so much to us. We had become intoxicated with success, winning 4 trebles in a row, right? But that League Cup, that season, last season, meant so much to us. We were almost desperate to win it, right? Because of what had gone on before, because of the challenges Ange had faced. And when you watch that game back, the performance of Kyogo was astonishing. It was incredible. Just watch his goals, So that player,
The second goal in that game, it's Larsson-esque.
unbelievable, right? But that
Unbelievable
player
goal.
is still the Kyogo of tonight. He just maybe isn't on the top of his game. He's maybe not at the top of his form. But he's still the same player. He's still capable of that magic, the magic moment that he gave us that day and since then. So I just think that it's a wee bit of perspective. And with regards to Ange, we're going to get better. I'm going to bring up a couple of these comments. Thanks everybody for getting involved. We've got Tom Hill. They had an elite player and we didn't. Now that's difficult to argue with that, right? Because we don't have a player like Mudryk. We don't. Simple as that. But what I would say is we do have a very creative player who wasn't on the park tonight. And we do miss him when he's not playing. The creativity of Jota is missed. Now, I've been a big fan of Haksabanovic. It wasn't his best game tonight. He was involved in the goal. But, I think that Jota getting off the mark with regards to his goal tally in the Champions League was a massive step forward for him. And I wanted to see what else he could do in the remaining games. We didn't have him, and I'm not saying he's an elite player, but he is one of our players that you would look at to change a game, Kevin. He's one of the guys, maybe in the last 15-20, where you're thinking, right, we need a game-changing moment. We need Jota to step up here, especially if you're looking around and maybe Kyogo's not having his best game. Who else can you look at? Well, Jota would be one of the guys. We don't have an elite player like that. Very, very few and far between are players like that. And as we said before, he's going to move on to massive success somewhere else and cost someone a lot of money. Barry McCluskey joined us at halftime when somehow your invite got lost in the post, Kevin. I must have sent it.
At least there was a McCluskey on somewhere.
Exactly. So Barry and I spoke. Disappointing final balls, too much attempted finesse in the box let us down. We needed to get the ball to big George, the battering ram. Not a bad shout that, because you've already said had Kyogo played in Giakoumakis, we could have been looking at a different result. With regards to Giakoumakis and the kind of upward trajectory that we've seen from him, I remember sitting watching the Alloa game, the game in which Callum McGregor ended up with the fracture. Was it a cheekbone or an eye socket fracture? And Ideguchi,
cheekbone, I think,
yeah, that was a shocker. And Ideguchi got injured that night. And I remember wondering, and I had my doubts that night about Giakoumakis. I really did. I just didn't think he performed well enough. I know he scored that night, by the way. The ball was bouncing off him. The first touch looked really, really poor. And I just thought to myself, what have we got here? Because it had taken so long to get him in the team with the fitness and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I had my doubts. What we now have is a player that, if a chance is going to fall to the boot of anyone in a Celtic jersey at this moment in time, you want it to fall at his feet. He is the most clinical player we've got. He is the penalty box striker that often a club needs, and I think we spent a lot of money trying to get one in Ayeti, didn't work out, but we've got one in Giakoumakis. But before the game, I also said, Kevin, that the way he's treated by the officials in domestic games is that he gets away with nothing, loads of fouls against him, goes down, doesn't get the free kick. Tonight was different, wasn't it? He won those free kicks, it's incredible.
Aye. Put him in a different league and all of a sudden he gets the decisions. He's the boy that's got both their centre-halves booked tonight. Mm-hmm. Just by being that physical presence that unnerved them and forced fouls. If it's the other way around, if it's in the league, it's probably the other way around and the fouls given against him in the first place. I've seen it so many times.
Absolutely. And with regards to Giakoumakis, there was talk around the types of games that he can play. I I think he showed tonight that he can also play at this level, and I want to see more from the big man. Now, Gary Buckets, Juranovic horrible again. I don't get that. I don't. I thought he's up against the best player on that football park, right? He is, by some distance. And for the most part, he nullified that. I don't think he had a bad game. Who else are you going to put up against Mudryk? Now, I love Ralston, but I wouldn't dream of putting him up against Mudryk if I could help it. Juranovic was our best option, quickest player at the club, and I don't think he was horrible. I don't think he played that
No,
badly.
I don't think he had a bad game. He's up against, we'd said it, boy, that I think I'd get his valuation's a little bit wrong before the game, but I think it was a £30 million bid that was rejected and they're looking for 50. So that's the kind of player he was up against. I don't think he lost like a one-on-one duel with him. I don't think Mudryk really got the ball and was able to take it past him. Where Mudryk got the better of him was getting onto through passes that were in behind, and he used his pace. Now, if the boy's lightning, it's going to be very difficult to catch him. But there was a few instances in the game where Juranovic actually stepped back a little bit and was able to get, anticipate the pass coming in and make a couple of challenges. I don't think he had that bad a game. And so anything that he was caught out on, it was a good through pass, and it's the pace of Mudryk that beat him rather than the skill of Mudryk. And if you look at the goal, he's probably done everything right, hasn't he? You probably want to force him inside onto what you think is his weaker foot, narrow the angle for him, narrow the opportunity to shoot, and he finds the gap and the shot, the finish. It's unreal. It's a fantastic goal. My note for that is just wow. What more can you say? He's an absolute kind of generational talent. Excuse me, and he scored a brilliant goal, and it's no fault of any of the defenders that's gone in, and definitely not of Juranovic. And going forward, I thought he was his usual self. He contributed fairly well in the attacking side of the game as well. Again, always looking for the ball, same as O'Reilly. If he makes a mistake, he doesn't let it get to his head. He's looking for the pass again. Players will make mistakes in the game, but overall, I felt Juranovic's contribution was actually pretty decent.
Yeah,
and again, he's shown that he's capable of playing at this level. It's just you come up against a £50 million player. It's going to be a difficult night, and one mistake that you make can lead to a goal, and that's, as I think one of the commenters mentioned earlier on, that's kind of the difference. We don't have that player. We don't have that outlet that just gets the ball so direct, got loads of pace, and there's an end product.
Remember back in the day that in Europe, Samaras became the best player that he could possibly be. He seemed to thrive on these big nights, didn't he? But again,
Dynamo Moscow, I think, away from home.
I remember rumours,
even Spartak, I think.
Rumours that Barcelona wanted to purchase him. He had this incredible knack, Kevin. He just like catching the ball on his chest. Remember, like it didn't matter how high the clearance was. It just stopped dead on his. So that type of player that can turn a game in Europe, have we got him yet? We probably do, but they've not quite got to that level yet. And I think that's what I was trying to explain with the Jota absence tonight. He's the type of guy that you're going to say, well, the chips are down, there's a few sets of tired legs, give the ball to him and make something happen. And
he's the closest that we've got.
Yeah.
Jota's definitely the closest we've got to that. That one player that you would just think, he'd come from Europe. He's a European style of player. He knows how to play these kind of games, these kind of opponents. You'd trust him with the ball. Samaras was to go back to him, an unreal player for me. I loved the big fella. The most frustrating player you'll ever find in the Scottish League, but you just knew he had talent. And then when it came to the game in Europe, you had to play him. You just had to, because he would hold the ball up, he'd link the play, he'd bring others in, and generally decent goal scorer in return, I think, in the big games in Europe as well. So,
I think Samaras must have frustrated the manager, because I know it was Strachan at bottom, but, sometimes you just didn't fancy it. And I think Neil Lennon actually said that, midweek game against Ross County, I don't fancy that. But in Europe, in the big games, he turned up. And I remember being in Greece, and as you do, Kevin, obviously, when you're in the back of a taxi, you ask the driver about Samaras. And he said the same. He said the same. He just, he turns up for the big games. but he's not interested for the wee games. And that's what we need. We need somebody that turns up for the big games at this moment in time, at this level. And you know, I think they're in the squad, Kevin. I think they're there. It's just about adapting and you know, finding that level.
It's about the experience. It's about the experience and getting used to the level. Jota could be that player, definitely. He hasn't done enough for me in this campaign as a single campaign, but give him time and I think he can become that player. I also think Abada can be that player. And he showed it for me a little bit tonight with the goal, because he's making that run from right to middle that he makes in the domestic game, and now he's transferring it into a European game as well. He's got the confidence to do the same things, and he's getting the results as well. He maybe didn't score, but he did enough to create the havoc, and then Giakoumakis is in behind to score. So I think over time we've got the players. Everybody wants that player ready-made and brought into the club though, and we want him there yesterday. We don't have him. It's unlikely that we're going to afford a player that comes in with that level of ability. But we've got players there that we can coach up to become that player, I think, anyway.
No, that's a good point. We can't buy them ready-made. We need to develop them ourselves, and it's going to take a wee while at this level. Disappointing tonight because we know that's Celtic getting knocked out of Europe, but I've got to thank everybody for getting involved in the comments section, particularly at half-time when I was flying solo. And Kevin McCluskey joined us for full time, which is always an absolute pleasure. Will you do the same again for the Real Madrid game in the Bernabeu? Let's hope so.
We will do the same, yes. And that's where we win, because we have to get one win in this campaign.
we will go into it. I
can't do 6 games without a win.
I know. So. We will go into it with positivity. That much is absolutely guaranteed. Thanks everybody for getting involved. As I said before, if you want to support the channel, give us a big thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and if you like some of the merch coming up to Christmas, click on the link underneath, and that is sent out within about 24 hours. There is a strike in Dalkeith until tomorrow, so anyone who's ordered, there might be a slight delay by a couple of days, but we support the strikers. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Thank you, Kevin McCluskey, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.